Hello, everyone. This is Jerome Waddle, and today's reading will be one of C.G. Jung's favorite poems that influenced him in his youth as a student and throughout his life works. It's the poem Patmos by Friedrich Holderlin. Holderlin was a German poet and philosopher. In his poetry, he incorporated classical Greek syntax and mythology while engaging themes of exile, divinity, and the natural world. Hölderlin's work significantly influenced modern poetry and philosophy, including the writings of Nietzsche, Rilke, Heidegger, and Celan. C.G. Jung said, "When I was a student, I discovered Hölderlin and got to know his poem Patmos. At the same time, I held it to be a high point in German lyric poetry, such as, but high in the light blossoms the silver snow, and witness to life everlasting on attainless walls. The immemorial ivy grows." A lot of Hölderlin's other work is stylized or has a somewhat exaggerated emotionality, but for me, Patmos is unsurpassable. It is not that Hölderlin's poetry only speaks about being, but that through it, being itself speaks. Hölderlin's poetic language reveals the hidden essence of being and allows us to encounter the truth of our existence in a way that no other discourse can achieve. In the Black Books, the magician's black rod becomes Jung's Hermes wand and aid in navigating the way of life, redeemed from redeemers or saved from salvation. The signs, unlike the solid letter in Holderlin's Patmos, a poem long close to Jung's heart, bring up their own dark ground with them. This piqued my interest, and so I thought I would read the poem Patmos and would appreciate any comments about how this may help in understanding or experience the essence of being that Jung was trying to communicate to us. It also may be helpful to know that the island of Patmos is a Greek island in the Aegean Sea. It is famous as the location where John of Patmos received the visions found in the book of Revelation and probably has some relevance in the poem. The poem, Patmos. The God is near and hard to grasp, but where there is danger, a rescuing element grows as well. Eagles live in the darkness, and the sons of the Alps cross over the abyss without fear on lightly built bridges. Therefore, since the summits of time are heaped about, and dear friends live near, growing weak on the separate mountains, then give us calm waters, give us wings and loyal minds to cross over and return. Thus I spoke when faster than I could imagine, a spirit led me forth from my own home to a place I thought I would never go. The shaded forest and yearning brooks of my native country were glowing in the twilight. I couldn't recognize the lands I passed through, but then suddenly, in fresh splendor, mysterious in the golden haze, quickly emerging in the steps of the sun, fragrant with 1,000 peaks, Asia rose before me. Dazzled, I searched for something familiar, since the broad streets were unknown to me, where the gold bejeweled because comes rushing down from Tmolus, where Taurus and Mesogus stand, and the gardens are full of flowers, like a quiet fire. Up above in the light of the silver snow thrives and ivy grows from ancient times on the inaccessible walls, like a witness to immortal life, while the solemn God-built palaces are borne by living columns of cypress and laurel. But around Asia's gates, unshaded sea paths rush about the unpredictable sea, though sailors know where the islands are. When I heard that one of these close by was Patmos, I wanted very much to put in there, to enter the dark sea cave. For unlike Cyprus, rich with springs, or any of the others, Patmos isn't splendidly situated, but it's nevertheless hospitable in a more modest home. And if a stranger should come to her, shipwrecked or homesick or grieving for a departed friend, she'll gladly listen and hear offspring as well, the voices in the hot grove, so that where sands blow and the heat cracks the tops of the fields, they hear him, these voices, and echo the man's grief. Thus she looked after the prophet that was loved by God, who is his holy youth, had walked together inseparably with the Son of the Highest, because the storm-bearer loved the simplicity of his discipline. Thus that attentive man observed the countenance of God directly. There at the mystery of the wine, where they sat together at the hour of the banquet, when the Lord with his great spirit quietly foresaw his own death, and forspoke it, and also his final act of love, for he always had words of kindness to speak, even then in his presence, to soften the raging of the world, for all is good. Then he died. Much could be said about it. At the end, his friends recognized how joyous he appeared and how victorious. And yet the men grieved now that evening had come, and were taken by surprise, since they were full of great intentions and loved living in the light, and didn't want to leave the countenance of the Lord, which had become their home. It penetrated them like fire into hot iron, and the one they loved walked beside them like a shadow. Therefore he sent the Spirit upon them, and the house shook, and God's thunder rolled over their expectant heads, while they were gathered with heavy hearts, like heroes under sentence of death. When he again appeared to them at his departure, for now the majestic day of the sun was extinguished as he cast the shining scepter from himself, suffering like a god, but knowing he would come again at the right time. It would have been wrong to cut off disloyalty, his work with humans, since now it pleased him to live on in the loving night and keep his innocent eyes fixed upon the depths of wisdom. Living images flourish deep in the mountains as well. Yet it is fearful how God randomly scatters the living, and how very far and how fearsome it was to leave the sight of dear friends and walk off alone over the mountains, where the divine spirit was twice recognized in unity. It hadn't been prophesied to them. In fact, it seized them right by the hair, just at the moment when the fugitive God looked back, and they called out to him to stop. And they reached their hands to one another as if bound by a golden rope and called it bad. But when he dies, he whom beauty loved most of all, so that a miracle surrounded him, and he became chosen by the gods. And when those who lived together thereafter in his memory became perplexed and no longer understood one another, and when the floods carry off the sand and the willows and temples, and when the fame of the demigod and his disciples is blown away, and even the highest turns aside his countenance, so that nothing immortal can be seen either in heaven or upon the green earth. What does all this mean? It is the action of the winnower when he shovels the wheat and casts it up into the clear air and swings it across the threshing floor. The chaff falls to his feet, but the grain emerges finally. It's not bad if some of it gets lost, or if the sounds of his living speech fade away, for the work of the gods resembles our own. The highest doesn't want it accomplished all at once, as mine shafts yield iron and Etna is glowing resins. Then I'd have sufficient resources to shape a picture of him and see what the Christ was like. But if somebody spurred himself on along the road and speaking sadly fell upon me and surprised me, so that like a servant I'd make an image of the God once I saw the lords of heaven visibly angered, not that I wanted to become something different, but that I wanted to learn something more. The lords are kind while they reign. They hate falsehood most when humans become inhuman. For not they, but undying fate. It is that rules, and their activity spins itself out and quickly reaches an end. When the heavenly procession proceeds higher, then a joyful son of the highest is called, like the sun, by the strong. As a watchword, like a staff of song that points downward, for nothing is ordinary. It awakens the dead, who aren't yet corrupted, and many are waiting whose eyes are still too shy to see the light directly. They wouldn't do well in the sharp radiance. A golden bridle holds back their courage, but when quiet radiance falls from the Holy Scripture, with the world forgotten and their eyes wide open, when they may enjoy that grace and study the light in stillness. And if the gods love me as I now believe, then how much more do they love yourself? For I know that the will of the eternal Father concerns you greatly. Under the thundering sky, his sign is silent, and there is one who stands beneath it all his life, for Christ still lives. But the heroes, all his sons have come, and the holy scriptures concerning him, while earth's deeds clarify the lightning like a foot trace that can't be stopped. And he is there too, aware of his own works from the very beginning. For far too long, the honor of the gods has been invisible. They practically have to guide our fingers as we write. And with embarrassment, the energy is torn from our hearts. Forever heavenly being expects a sacrifice. And when this is neglected, nothing good can come of it. Without awareness, we've worshipped our Mother Earth and the light of the sun as well. But what our Father who reigns over everything wants most is that the established word be carefully attended and that which endures must be interpreted well. German song must accord with this. Thanks for listening, and let me know what you think in the comments.